I sipped my champagne. The club director approached us. Parker, as owner, how would you like to handle your sister's membership status? Their glasses froze midair. She should stick to public golf courses, my sister Veronica sneered to her charity gala guests, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the chandelier light. This is for successful people. I sipped my champagne and said nothing. My mother patted Veronica's arm approvingly. Some people just don't understand their place. The laughter rippled through their circle of friends. I smiled politely and adjusted my simple black dress. Then the club director, Marcus Webb, approached our table with a leather portfolio. Ms. Parker, as owner, how would you like to handle your sister's membership status? Their glasses froze midair. I'm Morgan Parker. I'm 31 years old, and until about 45 seconds ago, my family thought I was a struggling accountant who could barely afford her studio apartment in the city. The country club thing started as an investment opportunity. It became something else entirely. But I should go back further. Back to where the story actually begins. Growing up in the Parker household meant understanding the hierarchy early. Veronica was 3 years older, blonde like our mother, and blessed with what my father called executive presence. I was the quiet one. The one who blended into wallpaper at family gatherings. The one whose report cards got a cursory glance while Veronica's ballet recitals demanded standing ovations. I was 7 when I first understood how things worked in our family. We were at my grandmother's house for Easter. I'd spent 3 weeks making a card for her, cutting out little paper flowers and writing a poem I'd composed myself. Veronica had grabbed a generic card from the pharmacy on the way over. "Oh, how lovely," Grandma said when Veronica handed her the store-bought card. She displayed it prominently on her mantel. When I gave her my handmade creation, she smiled distractedly. "That's nice, dear." She set it on the side table where it eventually got buried under newspapers. My mother noticed my face. "Don't pout, Morgan. Veronica's card was appropriate. Yours was a lot." I learned to make myself smaller after that. The second memory cuts deeper. I was 14 and I'd just won the regional mathematics competition. First place. A trophy and everything. I came home glowing, ready to share my achievement. My parents were in the living room with Veronica, who was crying because she hadn't made the varsity cheerleading squad. "Mom, Dad, I won." "Not now, Morgan." My mother didn't even look up. "Your sister is going through something." I stood there holding my trophy while they spent the next 2 hours consoling Veronica about cheerleading. At dinner, my father finally noticed the trophy I'd set on the counter. "What's that?" "I won the regional math competition." He nodded slowly. "That's good. Math is useful." Then he turned to Veronica. "Sweetheart, I called Coach Davidson. He's going to give you another tryout." Veronica beamed. "Really? Oh, Daddy, thank you." My trophy went into my bedroom closet. I never mentioned it again. The third memory is the one that shaped everything. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree in finance and accounting. I'd graduated summa cum laude. I'd had 3 job offers before I even walked across the stage. I was ready to start my career. My parents threw a graduation party. For Veronica. She'd just gotten engaged to Jonathan Whitmore, whose family owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the state. The party was ostensibly for both of us, but the banner read, "Congratulations, Veronica and Jonathan." My graduation was mentioned in my father's toast as an afterthought. And of course Morgan finished school too. "We're sure she'll find something suitable." Something suitable. I'd been recruited by 3 Fortune 500 companies. I'd turned down a position at Goldman Sachs because I had a better offer. But they didn't know that. They'd never asked. Jonathan cornered me by the punch bowl that night. "So, Morgan, what's the plan?" "Going to be an accountant somewhere." He said accountant the way someone might say garbage collector. Something like that. "Well, if you ever need help, Veronica and I know people. We could probably get you an interview at one of the dealerships. The accounting department, obviously. Nothing customer-facing." I thanked him politely and excused myself. That was the night I decided to stop trying to prove anything to my family. I would build my success in silence. They didn't deserve to know. What they didn't know was that I'd accepted a position at a boutique investment firm that specialized in distressed assets. What they didn't know was that I had a mind for seeing value where others saw failure. I started as an analyst. Within 18 months I was leading my own deals. By 25 I'd been promoted to principal. By 27 I'd made my first 8 figures. Not that my family noticed. At every family gathering the narrative remained the same. Veronica was the successful one, married well, living in a 6,000 square foot house in the prestigious Willowbrook Estates. Jonathan's dealerships were thriving. They were members of the Oakwood Hills Country Club, where Veronica chaired charity committees and my mother bragged about them to anyone who would listen. Meanwhile, I was the struggling accountant who lived in a tiny apartment and couldn't seem to get ahead. They saw what they wanted to see. My apartment was small because I liked it. Because it was in a doorman building downtown where I could walk to my office. Because I'd paid cash for it, $2.3 million cash, and owned it outright. My car was modest because I didn't care about cars. The fact that I could have bought Jonathan's entire dealership chain 3 times over never occurred to anyone. But the country club acquisition, that was personal. In 2023, I learned through my investment networks that Oakwood Hills Country Club was in financial trouble. Decades of mismanagement, declining membership, deferred maintenance. The board was quietly seeking a buyer who would inject capital without disrupting the membership's precious sense of exclusivity. I saw the opportunity immediately. Not for the investment, though the numbers were solid. For something else entirely. I acquired Oakwood Hills Country Club on March 15, 2023, for $47.3 million through my holding company, Parker Capital Holdings. The deal was structured for maximum privacy. The membership never knew. The staff signed NDAs. Even the board only knew me as the new ownership group. Marcus Webb, the club director, reported directly to me. We'd developed a good working relationship over the past 2 years. He knew exactly who I was. My family did not. Veronica continued chairing her charity committees. My mother continued bragging about Veronica's prestigious country club membership. They had no idea that every event they hosted, every charity gala they organized, every Sunday brunch they enjoyed, all of it took place on my property. I never planned to tell them. Then Veronica sent the invitation. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, cream-colored with gold embossing. Veronica's charity gala at Oakwood Hills Country Club. The beneficiary was the Children's Hospital Foundation, a cause I'd been anonymously supporting for years through my charitable trust. What caught my attention was the handwritten note tucked inside. Morgan, Mother insisted I invite you, so here. Try not to embarrass us. Maybe rent something nice to wear? The dress code is formal. That means no outlet store fines. I read it twice to make sure I'd understood correctly. Then I laughed. I called Marcus that afternoon. Miss Parker, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I'll be attending my sister's charity gala on Saturday. There was a pause. Marcus knew my family situation. I'd explained it when I first acquired the club, so he'd understand why anonymity was essential. I see. Would you like me to prepare anything? No. I'll attend as a guest. My sister invited me. Another pause. Understood. And if there are any situations, handle them as you would any member issue. Just keep my ownership status confidential unless I indicate otherwise. Of course, Miss Parker. Saturday arrived. I chose a simple black Valentino dress. Understated, elegant, and worth more than Veronica's entire jewelry collection, though no one would know that from looking at it. I wore minimal jewelry. Small diamond studs. A watch that looked plain but cost $45,000. I arrived at the club at 7:15 p.m. The valet recognized me, staff had my photo in their training materials, and immediately snapped to attention. Good evening, Miss Parker. Shall I? Just park it normally, please. I'm here as a guest tonight. He nodded, understanding. Inside, the grand ballroom was transformed. White linens, towering floral arrangements, a string quartet in the corner. Veronica had outdone herself. The tickets were $500 per person with a silent auction and live auction later in the evening. All proceeds to the Children's Hospital Foundation. I'd anonymously donated a Caribbean vacation package worth $35,000 to the silent auction. I wondered if anyone would bid on it. I found a champagne flute and positioned myself near the windows, watching the crowd. My mother spotted me first. Her smile flickered, then set into something polite and distant. Morgan. You came. Veronica invited me. Yes, well. Your sister is very generous. She looked me up and down, clearly searching for something to criticize but finding my appearance acceptably bland. The dress is fine. Thank you. Try to mingle. But perhaps avoid the major donors? Veronica's worked very hard on these relationships. Of course, mother. She drifted away and I continued sipping my champagne. Veronica found me 20 minutes later, Jonathan in tow. She was radiant in a red designer gown, her hair professionally styled, diamonds at her throat and wrists. Morgan. You actually showed up. You invited me. Mother invited you. I just sent the card. She looked at my dress with barely concealed disdain. Well, at least you tried. Is that from Nordstrom Rack? Something like that. Jonathan chuckled. Hey, nothing wrong with budget shopping. Smart money management, right? That's your thing, isn't it? Accounting. Something like that. Veronica's eyes narrowed. Why do you always do that? Something like that. It's like you can't give a straight answer about anything. I smiled. Just agreeable, I guess. No, you're just... She stopped herself, smoothing her expression as a couple approached. We'll talk later. I have donors to attend to. Try not to hover by the food table all night. She swept away with Jonathan, leaving me alone by the windows. The evening continued. I watched my sister work the room, charming donors, posing for photos, accepting compliments on the event's elegance. My mother circulated on her arm, basking in reflected glory. I bid $12,000 on the Caribbean vacation package I'd donated. Anonymous, of course. Just to keep the bidding interesting. At 9 p.m. the speeches began. What my family didn't understand, what they'd never bothered to learn, was that I'd built an empire while they weren't looking. Parker Capital Holdings controlled $892 million in assets as of last quarter. We specialized in acquiring underperforming luxury properties and businesses, restructuring them, and either operating them long-term or selling them at significant profit. Oakwood Hills was just one of 7 properties in my portfolio. I also owned a boutique resort in Vermont, a historic hotel in Charleston, a vineyard in Napa, and 3 apartment complexes in emerging neighborhoods. My personal net worth, as of my last meeting with my wealth manager, was approximately $340 million. I employed 847 people across all my holdings. I donated over $3 million annually to charitable causes, including, ironically, the Children's Hospital Foundation that Veronica was currently fundraising for. My donation last year had been $150,000. Anonymous, of course. I served on 2 nonprofit boards. I mentored young women in finance. I had breakfast monthly with the mayor to discuss economic development initiatives. But to my family I was Morgan, the struggling accountant, the one who couldn't afford nice things. As I stood by the windows watching my sister accept applause for her gala, I thought about how strange it all was. The building we stood in, I owned it. The champagne they drank, I'd approved the vendor contract. The flowers, the linens, the string quartet, all expenses that came across my desk quarterly. My phone buzzed. A text from Elaine Chin, my CFO. Quarterly numbers are in. Portfolio up 12.3%. Oakwood Hills specifically up 8.7% year-over-year. Good quarter. I typed back, thanks. Send full report Monday. You got it, boss. Enjoy your Saturday night. You deserve it. I smiled and pocketed my phone. Veronica was at the podium now, thanking the sponsors and donors. She looked beautiful up there, confident and poised. The golden child, all grown up. And of course I have to thank this incredible club for hosting us once again. Oakwood Hills has been my home away from home for years. The staff, the facilities, the community, there's nowhere else I'd rather host this event. Applause. I'd also like to acknowledge my family. My husband Jonathan, who supports everything I do. My mother, Eleanor, who taught me the importance of giving back. And, she scanned the room, her eyes finding me in the back corner. My sister Morgan, who managed to join us tonight. It's nice when family shows up. The way she said it made showing up sound like the bare minimum. The assembled donors offered polite, pitying smiles in my direction. I raised my champagne glass in acknowledgement. Veronica continued her speech, announcing the evening's fundraising total so far, $127,000, a new record for the event. The room applauded enthusiastically. After the speeches, the mingling resumed. I found myself near the silent auction table, checking on the Caribbean package. The bidding had reached $28,000. Good. Morgan. A voice behind me. I turned to find a woman I didn't recognize, early 40s, elegant in navy blue. She was studying me with curiosity. I'm sorry, do we know each other? No, I don't think so. I'm Patricia Hendricks. I'm on the hospital foundation board. Veronica mentioned you work in accounting. Finance, actually. But yes. How interesting. We're always looking for volunteers with financial backgrounds for our audit committee. It's not glamorous work, but it's important. I smiled. That's kind of you to mention. I'll think about it. Please do. Here's my card. And thank you for supporting the event tonight. Every dollar helps. She moved away and I tucked her card into my clutch. Patricia Hendricks. I'd have to look her up. The foundation board might benefit from a larger donation, properly attributed this time. My mother appeared at my elbow. I saw you talking to Patricia Hendricks. She invited me to volunteer on their audit committee. My mother's face pinched. Don't embarrass us, Morgan. These people are important. You can't just pretend to be at their level. I wasn't pretending anything. You know what I mean. Your sister has worked very hard to be accepted in these circles. If you insert yourself and then can't deliver, it reflects badly on her. I'll keep that in mind. She patted my arm with the same distant affection she might show a neighbor's child. Good. Now try to enjoy yourself. The dessert station is excellent. She walked away and I found myself alone again. The evening wore on. I watched, I listened, I sipped champagne that my club had purchased from my approved vendor list. Around 10 p.m. the live auction began. Big-ticket items. A week at a ski chalet, a private dinner with a celebrity chef, a pair of courtside basketball tickets. The Caribbean vacation package went for $34,000 to a man I recognized as one of Jonathan's business associates. When the auction concluded, Veronica took the microphone one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to announce that tonight's total, including our incredible live auction, comes to $312,000 for the Children's Hospital Foundation. Wild applause. Standing ovation. Veronica beamed. I did the math. My anonymous $150,000 donation to the foundation last year. My $35,000 vacation package contribution tonight. Over half of the evening's total was indirectly my money. Not that anyone knew. Not that it mattered. The event began winding down around 11 p.m. Guests filtered toward the exit, exchanging air kisses and promises to do lunch. I was preparing to leave when Veronica intercepted me near the coat check. Morgan. A word. I turned. Of course. She pulled me aside away from the departing guests. Jonathan and my mother joined us. A small family cluster in the corner of the grand ballroom. I need to ask you something, Veronica said, her voice low and tight. What is it? Did you bid on the Caribbean package? I blinked. Why do you ask? Because the bidding records show an anonymous bid of $12,000 midway through the evening. The bid number was registered to a Morgan P. Jonathan snorted. I told her it couldn't be you. Where would you get $12,000? It must be a coincidence, my mother added. Another Morgan. Veronica's eyes narrowed. Is it? Is it another Morgan? I considered my options. The truth would raise questions I wasn't prepared to answer. A lie would be easier. Yes, I said. I placed that bid. Silence. Veronica's laugh was sharp, incredulous. With what money? Your accountant's salary. I've saved some over the years. Saved $12,000 for a charity auction? You can barely afford your rent. I've done well. Jonathan shook his head. This is sad, honestly. Trying to play in the big leagues. That bid probably got outpaced within 5 minutes. It did. See? Throwing money away to try to impress people. This is why you're still struggling, Morgan. No financial sense. My mother sighed. It's almost midnight. I'm tired. Can we wrap this up? Veronica wasn't finished. The point is, Morgan, this isn't your world. You can attend as a guest, fine. But don't try to pretend you belong here. You don't understand the culture, the expectations, the level of these people. She should stick to public golf courses, Veronica said to Jonathan and our mother, loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. This is for successful people. Several people turned. I recognized board members, major donors, the mayor's wife. I sipped my champagne. Said nothing. Do you see what I mean? Veronica gestured at me. No response. No ambition. No drive. Just standing there. My mother nodded sadly. We tried, Veronica. Some people just don't have it in them. That's when Marcus Webb, the club director, appeared. Marcus approached with his leather portfolio, his expression carefully neutral. He'd clearly been monitoring the situation. Miss Parker, he said, addressing me directly. I apologize for the interruption. As owner, how would you like to handle your sister's membership status? The silence that followed was absolute. Veronica's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. Jonathan's mouth fell open. My mother's face went pale, then red, then pale again. I'm sorry, Veronica said slowly. What did you just say? Marcus turned to her with professional courtesy. Mrs. Whitmore, I was addressing Ms. Morgan Parker, the owner of Oakwood Hills Country Club. That's impossible. I assure you, ma'am, it's quite accurate. Ms. Parker acquired the club in March 2023 through Parker Capital Holdings. She's been our owner for over 2 years. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. Morgan. I set down my champagne glass. Yes, Mother. Is this true? Yes. Jonathan found his voice first. This is a joke. Has to be. Some kind of. I can provide documentation if necessary, Marcus offered. He opened his portfolio, revealing papers with my signature, acquisition records, board meeting minutes with my name listed as principal owner. Veronica grabbed the portfolio. Her hands were shaking as she flipped through the pages. No, this doesn't make sense. You're an accountant. You live in a studio apartment. You can't even afford. Ms. Parker, Marcus continued, the kitchen staff wanted me to remind you that the wine selection you approved for tonight's event received excellent feedback. The 94 Bordeaux was particularly well received. More silence. More stares. I turned to Veronica. The event was lovely, by the way. You did a beautiful job organizing it. She dropped the portfolio. Papers scattered across the marble floor. Several nearby guests had stopped to watch, their phones suspiciously angled. How? Veronica's voice cracked. How is this possible? I work in finance. Acquisitions specifically. The club was available. The numbers made sense. I bought it. You bought a country club? Yes. For how much? Marcus cleared his throat. The acquisition price was $47.3 million, Mrs. Whitmore. Though with subsequent capital improvements, Ms. Parker has invested approximately $63 million in the property. My mother sat down heavily in the nearest chair. $63 million. Give or take. Jonathan was scrolling frantically on his phone. Parker Capital Holdings. There's nothing, wait. He stopped. His face went slack. Morgan Parker. Principal. Net worth estimated. He looked up at me. This says $340 million. That number is slightly outdated. Quarterly reports came in tonight. It's closer to $360 million now. Veronica made a sound I'd never heard before. Somewhere between a gasp and a sob. The club's head chef, David Morrison, appeared at my elbow. Miss Parker, wonderful event tonight. The catering came in 3% under budget, and guest satisfaction surveys are trending at 94% approval. Shall I email you the full breakdown Monday? That would be fine, David. Thank you. He nodded and withdrew. My mother was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. All this time. All these years. You've had. Yes. But you never said anything. You let us think. You never asked. Kept my voice calm even. Not once in 10 years did any of you ask what I actually do. What I've built. What I've accomplished. You decided I was struggling, and that was easier to believe than the alternative. Veronica's face contorted. The alternative? The alternative that you've been lying to us. I never lied. I just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing. Is it? When you assumed I couldn't afford nice clothes, I didn't correct you. When you assumed my apartment was a hovel, I didn't correct you. When you assumed I was a struggling accountant, I didn't correct you. Those were your beliefs, not my lies. Jonathan stepped forward, his expression shifting from shock to something calculating. Morgan, listen. This is incredible. Seriously incredible. We had no idea. But now that we know, we should talk. My dealerships. We've been looking for investors. Someone with your capital could really... No. The single word stopped him cold. No. I'm not interested in investing in your dealerships, Jonathan. Veronica grabbed his arm. She doesn't mean that. Morgan, think about it. We're family. Families help each other. Do they? I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time all evening. When did you help me, Veronica? When you told my guidance counselor that I didn't need scholarship recommendations because she's not college material? When you convinced Mom and Dad not to attend my college graduation because your engagement party was more important? When you told everyone at Christmas dinner that I was probably going to end up on welfare? That was, I didn't mean. You meant all of it. Every word. I picked up Marcus's scattered papers and handed them back to him. Thank you, Marcus. I think we're done here. Of course, Miss Parker. Shall I have the valet bring your car? Please. My mother stood up. Morgan, wait. We need to discuss this. No, we don't. But everything we said, we didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear Veronica's heels clicking rapidly on the marble as she tried to follow. Morgan. Morgan, stop. I stopped. Turned. Veronica's careful composure had crumbled entirely. Mascara tracked down her cheeks. Her perfect hair was coming undone where she'd been running her hands through it. Please, she said. I'm sorry. I didn't know. If I had known. If you had known, you would have been nicer to me. Is that the point? That I only deserve kindness when I have something you want? She had no answer. That's what I thought. I walked away. The first consequences were immediate. By the time I reached the valet stand, Marcus had approached me again. Miss Parker, I wanted to make you aware. Mrs. Whitmore's membership was due for annual review next month. Given tonight's events, would you like me to proceed with the standard review or process it normally, but implement the new membership standards we discussed last quarter? The ones requiring financial verification and conduct reviews. Understood. Those standards would disqualify approximately 23% of current members. Including my sister? Mrs. Whitmore's conduct tonight, combined with our review of past incidents involving staff complaints, would likely result in membership suspension pending behavioral review. I nodded slowly. Implement the standards. My phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan. Morgan, let's talk. I was surprised. I didn't mean to be dismissive. Call me. I didn't respond. The next morning I received 17 voicemails. My mother crying, apologizing, begging to talk. Veronica alternating between tearful pleas and indignant accusations. Jonathan with 3 different investment pitches, each more desperate than the last. I forwarded them all to my assistant with instructions to save but not respond. The escalating consequences came next. What my family didn't realize was that my portfolio extended beyond just the country club. Jonathan's dealership chain had been financed through First Regional Bank. I happened to know, through my network, that First Regional was currently reviewing several high-risk commercial loans in their portfolio. Jonathan's was one of them. I didn't intervene. I didn't have to. I simply mentioned to the bank CEO, during our regular quarterly lunch, that I'd heard some concerning things about the management practices at Whitmore Motors. Within 2 weeks, Jonathan received notice that his credit terms were being re-evaluated. Veronica's charity committee, the one she chaired at Oakwood Hills, received notice that the club would be restructuring its community involvement programs. All committee positions would require reapplication under the new standards. My mother's garden club, which met at the club every Thursday, received notice that outside organization rentals would be subject to new review processes. None of these consequences mention me directly. All of them were defensible as standard business decisions. But they knew. They all knew. The final consequences crystallized over the following month. Veronica's membership was formally suspended pending behavioral review. The letter cited multiple staff complaints over the years, including one incident where she'd made a server cry over an incorrectly prepared salad. Standard policy, the letter explained, was to require counseling and a formal apology to affected staff before reinstatement could be considered. Jonathan's credit reevaluation resulted in his interest rate increasing by 2.3 percentage points. Not catastrophic but enough to significantly impact his cash flow. He was forced to close 2 underperforming locations. My mother's garden club found a new venue. The review process at Oakwood Hills proved too lengthy for their needs. But the most significant consequence was social. The guests at the gala had recorded everything. Within 48 hours, clips were circulating on social media. Woman discovers her struggling sister owns the country club she mocked her in. The comments were savage. Veronica's charity work was reframed as performative. Her social media following dropped by 60%. Several board positions she'd held quietly requested her resignation. I didn't orchestrate any of this. I didn't have to. The truth, once released, had its own momentum. 3 weeks after the gala, I received a formal letter from my mother. Dear Morgan, I have spent the past weeks reflecting on our relationship and my role in creating the distance between us. I failed you as a mother. I saw what I wanted to see, believed what was easiest to believe, and allowed your sister's needs to eclipse yours at every turn. I am not writing to ask for forgiveness. I am not writing to ask for money or assistance or restoration of my garden club membership. I am writing to say that I am proud of you. I have always been proud of you even when I failed to show it. The woman you have become, successful, dignified, strong, is remarkable. You achieved everything without our support despite our dismissal. I hope someday you might be willing to have lunch with me. Not as a family obligation. Just as 2 adults who might learn to know each other for the first time. With love, I failed to adequately express, your mother. I read the letter 3 times. Then I set it aside and went back to work. 2 months after the gala, I agreed to meet my mother for lunch. We met at a small cafe downtown, neutral territory far from Oakwood Hills and all its associations. She looked older than I remembered. Smaller. Thank you for coming, she said. You asked. I did. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I've had a lot of time to think. About you. About how we treated you. About what I missed. And I was wrong. About everything. She met my eyes. You were always the strong one, Morgan. The one who didn't need validation, who didn't need constant praise and reassurance. We took that as a sign that you didn't need us at all. So we stopped trying. That's not how it felt. I know. I know that now. She took a shaky breath. I'm not asking you to forgive Veronica. What she's done, what she said over the years, I can't excuse it and I won't. But I hope maybe you and I could start over. Not as mother and daughter with all that baggage. Just as 2 people who want to know each other. I considered her words. The coffee shop hummed with quiet conversation around us. I'm not ready for that, I said finally. Not yet. She nodded, eyes bright with unshed tears. I understand. But I'm not closing the door. I pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. This is my assistant's direct line. If you want to reach me, really reach me, not for favors or money or social restoration, you can call her. She'll get me the message. My mother took the card like it was something precious. Thank you. I need you to understand something. I leaned forward. I don't hate you. I don't hate Veronica or Jonathan or anyone. But I also don't owe you my success, my time, or my forgiveness. Those are mine to give when and if I choose. I understand. And Veronica's membership, Jonathan's credit issues, your garden club. Those are business decisions. They're not revenge. I don't make decisions about my businesses based on personal vendettas. Those situations will be resolved when the standard criteria are met. Not before. She nodded again. I stood to leave. I'll think about lunch again. Maybe next month. I'd like that. I walked out of the cafe into the autumn sunshine. Later that afternoon, I had a call with Patricia Hendricks from the Children's Hospital Foundation. She tracked me down, properly tracked me through my actual business network, and wanted to discuss a major gift opportunity. We're launching a new pediatric wing, she explained. The board thought you might be interested in a naming opportunity. How much? For the full wing? $15 million over 5 years. I looked out my office window at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Veronica was probably still reeling from her social media disaster. Jonathan was probably scrambling to cover his increased loan payments. My mother was probably holding my business card and wondering if I'd ever call. But that was their story. Not mine. Mine was just beginning. Send me the proposal, I said. I'll have my team review it. Thank you, Miss Parker. The foundation is thrilled. After I hung up, I pulled up the quarterly reports on my laptop. Oakwood Hills was performing well. The new membership standards were attracting a better caliber of member. People who valued conduct as much as wealth. Staff satisfaction was up. Revenue was stable. The sun was setting over the city, painting the buildings gold and orange. I thought about the scared little girl who hid her math trophy in her closet. The teenager who learned to make herself smaller. The young woman who decided to build an empire in silence. She'd done it. Against all expectations, despite every dismissal, she'd done it. And the best part? She'd done it for herself. Not for recognition. Not for revenge. Just because she could. I closed my laptop and smiled. Some victories don't need an audience.